And we're live.
All right. Well, hello there, Pen Warriors. What's up? Welcome to the Pen and Blade podcast on the topic of D&D 1. We got Phil
Well,
here in the
technically it's called
in
one
the
D&D. It's not D&D 1.
Oh, oh.
I
I've been calling
constantly
it D&D
confuse that
1
as
the whole
well.
time.
Like D&D 1 sounds so much better than one D&D. But yeah.
Yeah, one D&D. Oh, that almost sounds like a cult thing. Like we are one D&D.
Right,
One
thank you.
D&D.
Thank you.
One
Yes.
D&D. That's No, I mean it is kind of like I've heard it said, and I somewhat agree that it is kind of arrogant to be like we have perfected Dungeons and Dragons. This is the ultimate edition for all time. Um, I mean the fifth edition is great, but at the same time, I feel like cutting off the possibility of a brand new future edition with very different mechanics is a potentially bold move.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this version is not needed. Like I don't know too much about it. I skimmed through the PDF and I read a bit of what it tries to achieve, and I'm not sure if it's really gonna like people will buy it. Of course, it's the next version, but I'm not sure if it's really needed. If that makes sense.
So you were telling me that people have like some people, a lot of people haven't actually heard about this announcement.
Yes, I had a lunch today with a friend, and he's a huge D&D fan, and we were just talking. I was like, "So what do you think of one D&D?" And he was like, "What?" He didn't hear of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like how do you get your D&D news? It's not gonna like show up anywhere unless you're like subscribed to Wizards of the Coast mailing list or something. Like how would anyone ever find out about this?
I
I
read
found out about it on YouTube
I read it on the
actually.
news, like on my news pages, just
Oh,
sitting
interesting.
there.
Well, okay, you got some cool news pages. If my news my news was about Dungeons and Dragons, I'd be more likely to pick up a newspaper, but interesting. Okay, so basically, for people who aren't in the know yet or finding out or don't know too much, they've released a unofficial playtest called Character Origins, and this is technically not the final version. There's going to be a player's handbook coming out in 2020 or 2024.
Yeah.
That's weird. It feels weird to say. In 2024, they're going to come out with. So this is kind of them getting like showing some of the ideas and getting feedback so that they can tweak it. And what they've gone through so far is what they're calling character origins, which is your races, background, and like some stuff about the spell list. And so they've added a few races, they've done a few different things, which we can start to chat about. But the other big part of it, which maybe you know a little bit more about, is like the digital component that they're
Yes.
bringing in.
So the first thing is currently we don't have any official PDFs, right? I think they tried that with the fourth edition, but as soon as they put out one PDF, then the whole internet has the PDF, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
the main reason why for the fifth edition they decided against an official one. And now that D&D Beyond is part of Wizards of the Coast, they're gonna probably make up some like digital PDF. It's not gonna be a PDF because again that's just a file that you can share, but it's gonna be like a compendium that you can load through D&D Beyond and
Yeah.
look in this into
But
the
then there's
stuff there.
also the big thing that I was thinking of was the like digital tabletop,
Yes. So I'm
which
not
will be
gonna.
like 3D and everything.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's exactly gonna work. But I imagine
It
it a bit.
looks.
Yeah,
Have you seen the trailers on YouTube?
I have not.
Oh, you got to check them out. It actually looks really beautiful. I think they use the Unreal Engine or something like that.
Uh huh.
Um, and it's like fully 3D, and you can move the camera around, and it still looks like a tabletop, like it's 3D miniatures and stuff like that. But like you can really build, like it looks like a video game level, and you can use that too, and it'll be like the official online, right, board game thing, because there's so many different people making these kinds of things. What is it like, Roll 20 and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Do you know the
this is going to
tabletop
be the official.
simulator? Sorry.
No, the tabletop simulator. What's
So
that?
that's it's like an app that you can load in custom models and everything, and basically you can play every tabletop game through
Oh.
that. So it became really popular for D&D during Corona, during the initial
Mm.
pandemics, and yeah, so I imagine this would work something similar, and I'm not sure if that is exactly like it's gonna be tailored specifically for D&D, but is it really
Mm-hmm.
gonna be that much better for D&D than Tabletop Simulator? Because that already works quite well. I tested it out. Like I'm not a fan of digital D&D. I like to play it
Yeah.
as a tabletop, but
Yeah.
if I would have to play
Well, I
it
mean, I
online,
guess
then Tabletop
the
Simulator.
big difference I imagine, aside from, I'm looking at tabletop simulator, and the graphics are okay, but like the ones that they were showing in the trailer were, feel a lot more crisp and moody. Like you can adjust the lighting and stuff like that. So if it's a dungeon lighting, or you can put light sources here and there. So I don't know what the limits of tabletop simulator are, but it looks a little nicer. And I think the big thing would be the integration of all the rules, right?
Dungeons.
So it'll all be built in when you level. I'm guessing it'll be integrated with like D&D Beyond, so you level up right in the thing, and you need to cast an ability. There's a button for it, and it shows you the range and everything. So I think that I would be surprised if Tabletop Simulator does that, though I haven't played it, so I wouldn't know.
Okay, so I'm just skimming through the trailer, and yeah, it actually looks cool. That is
It
true.
looks really nice, right? But
Yeah.
then it's like one of the big complaints or controversies is like now it's becoming more and more like a video game. Like what is that,
Yes.
Dragon Age, or no, not Dragon Age. What's the one that, or Divinity? Divinity. That's basically like D&D a game. Like it's right, low key just D&D
Yes.
made into a RPG.
Yes.
And so it's like we're moving like the distinction between playing a game where you're talking and imagining things in your mind, and there's like infinite possibilities because you're only limited by your imagination, to like a video game which has a lot more constraints due to
Yes.
the nature of it. It's kind of like it's blurring those two.
I,
And yeah.
I mean, you can go a step further and compare it to something like Baldur's Gate 3. Like that's a D&D game, and
Mm,
it's really cool, but I like to play the
yeah.
real thing. And
Hmm.
I think a big charm of D&D was for me why I loved, why I started playing it was just you sit around the table with a bunch of
Hmm.
people, all of them nerds, and you just have a
Yeah.
good time. And that
Mhm.
is something that a video game with online Zoom just cannot deliver for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a different experience. That's true. One of my fond memories from my youth are like the D&D sleepovers, where we would just go over to a person's house, and then the goal was just to play D&D the whole time and stay up until like 4 a.m. Just like eating snacks and just playing for hours. Like that is the quintessential D&D experience for me.
Yeah, have
Um,
you seen Stranger Things?
no, I've been thinking about watching it.
Nah, because
But
there's
yeah.
in one of the first episodes there's a scene where the guys come together and they just play D&D, and that is essentially why I fell in love with D&D. Like they come together,
Oh,
a bunch of nerds, and they just have a really good time. I mean, it ends up in like
that's
a horror
cool.
theme, but besides that, that's essentially what D&D is to me. And I'm not sure, like,
Mhm.
for example, I like digital compendiums because like carrying the books around you with you, that's meh. There's no official PDF, and I don't like these like halfly copied from a book pages PDFs. I don't know. I
Mhm.
just don't like it. It just doesn't feel very polished to me. So I would appreciate something that yeah, that brings these like the player's handbooks, for example, into a nice digital form that can just
Mm-hmm.
like load on my iPad, for example, and then just take it with me to a tabletop. But I don't want to play the thing in in virtual reality or in a virtual space. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
No, and also if you start to do that, like I mean, they're gonna have pre-made things. Like I think one of the appeals is that you can customize everything. Like, as a dungeon master, you can build everything the way you want with tiles and all that. But man, an already intense job for a dungeon master just got like, there's a lot of creativity and fun, but the time investment I bet to like build out every encounter on a like engine like that would be just, I don't know, man. The DM, but DMs like that stuff. Like I can see myself if I was a dungeon master, like I'm almost looking for things to do because I really am having fun creating this world.
true,
So it might
true.
actually be really fun to have a tool that lets me,
I mean that's my favorite.
visualize that.
Yeah, that's my most favorite, my favorite part of being a dungeon master is just creating these worlds,
Mm,
creating quests, creating interesting content that players will go through. But there's this joke that you can create a campaign and basically your players just throw it all away and go their own ways, and then all the pre-made stuff is basically useless. Which is
mm-hmm.
also true, but then here again, if you do that in digital form, then it might be the same, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean it's cool. It's gonna. I wonder if the digital version will probably have a subscription model for you to do all the stuff. Um, I would imagine, but yeah, well, we'll have to see. And I'm also
Right.
curious about,
Right. There's
you know,
pricing to it. I actually didn't think about that, but yeah, it's totally true. Of course, there's going to be a price to it.
mm.
Uh,
So yeah, so we'll have to kind of. I feel like it'll be good to follow the story as new announcements come out. We can chat about it in future podcasts because that'll be kind of interesting to see how it evolves. But
sure.
I'm kind of curious to pick your mind on some of the changes mechanically in the character origins PDF that they've come out with. So I know you just downloaded it like right before we chatted. So do you mind me telling you like some of the major changes and just kind of getting your initial thoughts
Go
before
for
you've had
it.
a chance to
Go for it.
to read through? All right, cool. So one of the biggest things which I have mixed feelings about is that they've moved a lot of the bonuses you get as a first level character from your race, particularly like the ability scores, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest one. So now your ability score bonuses, so like +2 strength, +1 whatever, +2 intelligence, that has is now related to your background. So whether you're like an artisan or a cultist or a, farmer or a soldier, those kind of backgrounds, that's what gives you your ability changes. So it takes away from the race, having as much of an influence on the mechanics of your character.
I don't know. I guess I have to play to really see how much it actually affects the game, but initially, like, I'm not sure if it makes that much of a difference. It could. Um,
Honestly, it probably doesn't. Like the thing is, if you're like an orc, which now, by the way, they're not half orcs; they're going to be orcs, and
mhm.
there's no half elves anymore. So they took out the half races, which is interesting. Um, they what's it called? They don't matter as much. Like it's like that's how it feels to me. There are still some decent abilities, and some, a lot of them get like free spells at certain levels, but it's not like, being an orc makes you strong. You can be strong as any of the races can have the equal +2 strength if they choose like the gladiator background, for instance, right?
Uh,
So your
it,
background becomes heavier, and the background also gives you a feat, and these feats are pretty cool. I like the feats; they have good mechanics and stuff like that. I think, but yeah. So and then your skill proficiencies, of course, also come from your background. So like the backgrounds get a lot heavier, while the races are a little lighter
I mean,
mechanically. I think.
one thing that I just thought of is that so for some races it makes sense, for example, for them to be stronger, right? If that is now
Yeah.
completely tied to the background, then I am not sure if that's a good change. Um,
Yeah, I feel like it takes away. I know there's like well, like I watched an interview, and one of the thinking behind it is that you should be able to play whatever race class combo you want. So like it's kind of a waste to be like an orc wizard because you could choose something with plus intelligence and be a better wizard, but now you can be an equally good wizard regardless of what race you are. um which I kind of like don't like as much because I'm like, if you play an orc wizard, like that's kind of cool because it's different. You're kind of going against the grain, and it's kind of a little more of an uphill battle. And you'll also just be a stronger wizard, which also makes sense if you're a big old orc. Even if you do study the arcane and like are more intellectually focused, you still probably be able to punch decently hard. Like just for the
yeah,
fact that you have that build of an orc,
totally, totally.
and like that instinct too. So right, so that's the kind of thing where I'm like, it kind of makes the races feel less impactful, which I actually think is one of the cool things. Like, if you're in a dungeon and the reason you're able to get out of the dungeon is because this dwarf has like a lot of bonuses that help him underground, and it's like, yeah, we survived because he's a dwarf, and that's like, I think that's kind of like a cool part of the game, and that's why you'd want to play the different races.
Hmm. I mean, I guess we have to see if they completely split it or just partially. I agree. It would be cool to sometimes play race, but I like, for example, my character creation is never influenced by stats. Like, I just create the characters that I would like to play,
Hmm.
not really depending on the stats they have. So I'm not sure if it's a good thing or bad. I guess we have to see
Yeah.
in the future. I cannot imagine them completely making the races uh, how do you say, weightless.
No, no. I mean, there's still definitely some good stuff. I mean, like the Dragonborn still have that dragon breath thing, the breath
Mm,
weapon. So I mean, that's gonna be very iconic and make you feel like a dragon, dragonborn. So,
yeah.
and there's still like cool things like dwarves have like dwarven toughness, so they get extra hit points or something like that. So yeah, it's just a little less impactful. So it's not like night and day, but I
Okay.
think that that's one shift that I found interesting and I had mixed feelings on. Yeah. So another big thing is like, so I said they took out the half races, which I think is interesting because then it's like, well, why can only orcs and elves mate with humans, and why can't like a dwarf and a halfling have a baby, and that would be a half something too, right? So
A half
it's
halfling.
oh, that's so funny.
It's a
Yeah, a
quarterling. It's not a
quarterling.
halfling. It's a
Yeah,
quarterling.
it's a that's awesome. So so now I guess it opens up the possibility to play quarterlings, if you
Nice.
really want to. But I think everyone's gonna assume like they're always half human. It's another thing that makes it like human sapiocentric, perhaps,
Hmm.
uh, from perspective, because it's like half is like implied that the other half is human. Uh, it's not half human; it's half elf or half orc. You know,
Yeah.
so it's just like an interesting little change. And then the big thing is they've added at least one race. Is it the only one they've added? It's called the Ardling, and it's basically like the opposite of the Tiefling. So while the Tiefling has a dark ancestry from another plane of existence,
Hmm.
the Ardlings have celestial, like, or a yeah, like a celestial legacy, as they call it. And
Hmm.
what they look like is that they have the head of an animal. So you're thinking like Egyptian gods kind of thing is what
Oh, I like that. I
I'm
like that.
envisioning.
That is really cool.
Okay.
That is cool.
Okay. Well, what do you think about that as a core race?
I mean, with I it could be interesting how they're gonna balance this, because celestial heritage, I would assume, means that they're quite powerful, right?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think it's the same as the tieflings. So they have like an infernal legacy or whatever,
Hmm.
and this is the opposite. Like there's just some blood in you that makes you, have some connection to. There are like three different groups: exalted, heavenly, or idyllic. And I guess they're from different planes or something like that. Yeah, from the different. So exalted is the chaotic good plane, heavenly is the lawful good plane, and idyllic is neutral good.
Hmm.
And so you have some kind of connection with a being that lives in that plane, or your bloodline does.
Ah, okay.
So they just get a couple new spells. They look crazy because they have the head of an animal, but they just get a few new spells, and they can fly with some spectral wings, some damage resistance to radiant damage. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so the stats wise, is okay. What I really like is I want to play a character with a chicken head. Like that shit sounds
Uh,
fun.
See, that's a thing though. Like for me, the Ardling sounds too out of place. And it's weird because like all the other races, like Dragonborns when they first came out also, and I still think they do, but I've gotten more used to it, feel a little bit like out of place. Like this is a more like advanced, or like it's not balanced, like human,
Hmm.
elf, dwarf, halfling, gnome. They all feel like equal but different. But
Hmm.
then when you get into like Dragonborn, I would imagine that is like if you're a dragonborn, you're already kind of more powerful at a baseline from my imagining. And the same with I would say tiefling and ardling. But ardling is especially weird because they look so strikingly different with this beast head. And so it's like, like the Egyptian gods kind of thing, like a deity
Yeah.
almost vibe, but then you'd be just like a level one barbarian with like a lion head. Like, yeah, I mean, it's cool, but it also feels like it's getting more and more high fantasy, and I think it's losing the grittiness and kind of like the down to earth sort of vibe of like being like a gritty adventurer,
Yeah.
just starting out.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Having
No, it's
this.
definitely interesting and cool. Like one of the things that I remember quite liking actually in 3.5 edition was that there was ways to play as monstrous races and celestials and like anything from the monster manual, and
Hmm.
celestials and stuff would count like that, but there was a experience penalty. So one monster in the monster manual, like an ogre, would
Hmm.
be have like, I forget how they designated it, but basically like it would cost 4 levels. So if everyone else makes a fifth level character, you would have like a level one character who was an ogre mage,
Ah,
or
okay.
whatever, who was an ogre. And then you'd have all the abilities of the ogre, like the regeneration, whatever monstrous abilities they have, and you'd also have extra hit points. They'd start at a baseline hit points that was what their hit points were in the Monty manual. So you could play like a celestial, but like you could even play like a lich or something, but it would have like a lot of levels, that you would not then have in your whatever class you choose. So you'd be behind, but it would balance it out with the other players who might just be
Okay.
like a level 5 human. So yeah, so I feel like Ardling and stuff would work like that. It would be like, okay, if you're having a higher level campaign, then you could have like this really powerful celestial being, right? It's almost like a demigod,
Yeah.
but like they'd only be like a level 2 or 3 barbarian while everyone else is level like 12. Or I'm just saying barbarian, but whatever the class.
Hmm.
So that's just kind of like what I would think would do with it. But yeah, no, it's cool. I think what the feeling I get from this whole document is that they're really trying to let you make whatever character you can imagine.
Hmm.
So you have all the options to do that, and then also to build it in a way that statistically feels good to
Yeah.
you, so that your characters all kind of feel strong in the way you want them to. um yeah,
Yes. I
so
agree.
that's my
Yeah,
overall
that's
impression.
really cool. Yeah.
So yeah, so it'd be cool for you to read through it a little more, and then maybe we can talk about specific details more in a future podcast. I'd be keen for that, or we could even end up making a characters together, maybe in a podcast or something like that. It could be fun.
Yeah.
Um,
That would really be fun.
Using this system, see what we come up with.
Definitely.
But yeah, any closing, thoughts or things you wanted to chat about before we start
I mean,
wrapping?
well, one thing is that yeah, like the one D&D is I think too early now to tell too much about it. Like we can
Yeah,
we
sure.
speculate a lot, right? We don't know. Like even in the D&D Beyond stuff that they released, they're specifically saying like everything is subject to change here.
Yeah. And
So
on that note, actually, they have a survey. So for the
yes,
playtest, you can go to, if you guys want to, viewers want to check it out, it's on dndbeyond.com. You make like a free count and then go find the D&D 1 page, download it, and then you can take a survey and let them know what you think of different features, different things. But you have to do it by September like 26th, I think is the deadline for submitting the survey. So, which I think is a good thing. Like it's really nice when companies take feedback from their biggest, their consumers, their fans, people who
yeah.
are actually going to enjoy the product. So, yeah, I think I'll do that.
All right. Cool. One thing I wanted to say, by the way, you nailed it with the
Mm.
background picture for this stream. For
Oh,
this type of
thanks,
stream.
bro.
I think the color palette works really well, and I adjusted the visualizer colors and
Beautiful.
like I think your picture is the one that you used for the that we used for the portraits on the website, right? As well as Will's.
It's Yeah, yeah. I use that as like one of the main references, basically. Yeah, so it matches up with the
Yeah.
penandblade.com.
And my character, people will probably recognize from Discord if they do, but yeah, mine is an upgraded character, upgraded version from the one in
Yeah,
on the website, and I like to think that this character is now traveling through the lands and with that changing his outfits depending on where he is, and he's currently in a very Norse inspired
interesting.
in a very Norse inspired region. So he has like the very green, like this Northern Lights colored tone on him.
Yeah,
He has the raven symbol on the chest in the necklace, and
that's totally cool. No, I
yeah.
love what you came up with. Definitely dig it.
All right.
Yeah, all right. I'm curious where Philcom will find himself next and how his attire will transform. So stick around, folks, and follow his journey, and maybe I'll get a new outfit at some point too. We'll see.
All right.
All right, brother. Well, yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next what's it called? Pen and Blade podcast. All right.
All right. Thanks for joining. See you next time. And what do you always say? Peace, God blessings. Stay fantastic,
Stay
everyone.
fantastic, everyone.
All
That's
right.
right.
All right. Bye.